Hello children, in this video we will be doing auxiliary verbs in English grammar. An auxiliary verb is a verb which cannot be used in its own. That is, it is also called as a helping verb. It adds functional or grammatical meaning to the clause. An auxiliary verb always accompanies the main verb to form tenses and passive forms. So, an auxiliary verb is divided into two categories, that is, primary auxiliary verbs and modal auxiliary verbs. First, let us do the primary auxiliary verbs. So again, this is also a kind of a verb that cannot be used on its own. It needs the help of a main verb. So here are some of the primary auxiliary verbs listed down, and along with it are the functions. First one is be, am, is, are, was, were, being, been. So these functions as the progressive tense. We have done tenses, right? So these verbs, that is the primary auxiliary verbs, function as the progressive tense or the passive voice. Next is do, does, did. These function as interrogation, like for questions, or negation. Negation means in grammar I have told you NOT, okay, the negative part. It can form as negation or it can function as request or invitation. Next is have, has, had, having. They function in the formation of the perfect tenses. It may be present, past or future perfect tense. So children, be, have, do are special auxiliary verbs because they can be used both as an auxiliary verb and as a main verb. Singular and plural of have and do. So the singular form of have is has and the singular form of do is does. So the singular does and has is used with the third person. Singular noun like he and she. The plural have and do is used with the first person and second person singular and plural pronouns, and with third person plural pronoun and with all plural nouns. For example, I have visited Delhi police thrice. So you can see I, that is a first person, and we have the verb have with it. Next is you have had 3 mangoes by now. So you is the second person. So along with it we have the word have. Next is he has completed the story. So here we have he, that is the third person. Next is I will do it tomorrow. Now you can see along with do we have the first person, that is I. They said they would do it within time. So here again we have the third person, they, which is used with the word or the primary auxiliary verb do. Now we will begin with the modal auxiliary verbs. Again, modal auxiliary verbs too cannot be used independently, just like the primary auxiliary verbs. So they perform a variety of functions. Let's see. Now here in front of you are the functions and the modal auxiliary verb. So the first one is ability or inability. The modal auxiliary verbs are can, which means ability in the present tense. Could, ability in the past tense. Be able to, can suggest any time. Next is can and could, which shows general ability, like she can do it or she could do it. Second is possibility or probability. So in this we have the verbs like may, which is for a good possibility. She may have done it. Next is could, a very weak possibility. She could have done it. Next is might, a weak possibility. She might have done it. Next is habitual, that is a past habitual action. So here the verbs are would and used to. Past means what? The habits that you had in the past. Next is conjecture. It is assumption or guesswork. Okay, when you guess or assume something. So the verbs are may have, must have, or might have. Like she may have gone to the concert. So you do not know, you are just guessing. Next is suggestion, duty, advice, or obligation. So the verbs are should. So should is for general suggestion. Like whenever you tell somebody, you suggest somebody, so you use the verb, that is a modal auxiliary verb, should. Ought to. This is a moral duty to do something, like respecting your parents or religious worship. Next is must, which is like, you give advice or you give suggestion. For that, these are the verbs. Sixth one is polite request or advice. In this, the verbs are can, which is a informal request, like can you give me a cup of tea? So you're requesting an informal request. Next is would and could are more polite request. So these are also used as, for requesting something. Next is will and can. This is again a polite request. Will you come to the party? So here you are requesting politely. Next is could. It is uncertain that the request will be accepted. Next is the seventh one, necessity. So here we have the verbs like need to, needn't to. This is a negative part of need. Then or need not. So necessity means what? The needs that you have. So whenever you have any words like need, needn't, need not, so that will stand for necessity. Next is prohibition, that is restrictions. Like the verbs are must not or ought not. Like you shouldn't do it because it is restricted. Next is permission. The words are may or might. So whenever you enter the class, what do you say? May I come in? So you're asking for a permission. Next is compulsion. So the words are should and must. You should study for your exams because this is a compulsion. 12th one is willingness. So this is for will. I will do my best for my studies. So that is standing for willingness. 13th one, courage, to be courageous. So the word is dare to. I will dare to do the thing that is impossible. So here dare to stands for courage. Last one is wish. So whenever you have any wish, that time the word or the modal verb that is used is may. Okay children, this is for it. Now let's do exercise. Here you need to identify the auxiliary verb and state what it functions like. The first sentence is, but the blood would not stop flowing. So children, what do you think is the auxiliary verb here? It is would, which shows probability. Next sentence, we mustn't miss the chance, he said. So here the auxiliary verb is mustn't, which shows obligation. That means you shouldn't miss the chance. You should do it. It's an obligation. Next is, he didn't look into the problem until 1963. So here we have didn't, which is showing a negation. You can see NOT, right? NT, didn't. So that is showing a negation. That is a primary auxiliary verb. Next, he could still feed himself and get out of bed. In this, the auxiliary verb is could, which is showing ability, that he can do that particular thing. Next is, I could not afford caviar. So here again we have could, but here it is showing could not. So that is inability. That means that person could not afford something. So that is why this is not ability but inability. Okay children, I hope this topic is clear to you. Thank you for listening children. Take care.